Hey everyone, hope everyone is doing well. So in this video here, I want to explain the ecosystem of Wuthering Waves, relating it to Genshin Impact because a lot of players came from Genshin Impact. So in Genshin, there is 5 slots for artifacts in your build, and I'm going to try to relate it to Wuthering Waves. It may not be one-to-one, but I'll try my best to make it as close as possible. So in the first slot in Genshin Impact, we have the flowers, which is HP. We have the feather, which is attack. Then we have the suns, which is either attack, energy recharge. Then there's HP and elemental mastery, defense, all these things. That's what the sans is, right? For the goblet now, the goblet is elemental damage bonus, basically like electro damage, physical damage, pyro damage. And then the last slot here is the circlet, which has like crit rate, crit damage. Usually a lot of people just use crit rate or crit damage in this spot. And yeah, that is basically the artifact system of Genshin Impact. So I'll go on to Wuthering Waves now and talk about the cost, because there's a cost of using certain echoes in that game. And I'll relate these 5 artifacts here, or these 5 slots, with the 5 slots that are in Wuthering Waves. So let's get to it. Right, so now we are in Wuthering Waves here. And there are 2 types of builds that people usually use in WoWa with the ecosystem. So the first one is 4-3-3-1-1. I'm sure a lot of people been hearing about this. And then there's the next one, which is 4-4-1-1-1. Now, if you add this up, 4 plus 3 is 7 plus 3 is 10, and then 1 on 1 is 12. So you have a total of 12 points, or the cost 12, that you could use in Wuthering Waves. Now, for the 4-4-1-1, we are only using 11 out of 12. If you do the maths here, it's only 11. So far, we can't get our extra one to make it 12 out of 12. So for the basic one, I'm going to relate Genshin Impact artifact system to the 4-3-3-1-1, and then I'll relate it to the next one here. So in Wuthering Waves, there's a cost system here. You could see cost 1, cost 3, and cost 4. Usually for main DPS, you're going to want crit rate, crit damage for a cost 4. For the cost 3 one here is like your elemental damage bonus, maybe an attack bonus, attack percentage. And then you have the 1-1s, which is like attack and HP. So if I had to relate this, if you could just kind of flip this, think of this one here is like the flower, the feather, the suns, the goblet, and then the circlet. So you see what I'm getting here. So for the flower, you usually have HP main stat. And if you check, well, you could get attack in Wuthering Waves for that one. But I think I have, let me go to cost 1. I think I probably have a HP somewhere here. I usually don't keep it. So that's your HP there. But the good thing about Wuthering Waves is that you could also have an attack cost for the first one. So you could kind of say like this is like the flower. Now for the feather, it's the same thing. You could either have an attack one here, attack percentage, or you could have like a HP or defense and stuff. So you could call this one here the flower, this one here the feather, and then you have like the suns here. Now there's a difference when coming to the cost tree. The cost tree is like a mix between a suns and a elemental damage goblet in Genshin Impact. So for this first slot here, this tree, let's call this one, let me see, let's call this one the suns, right? Or you could get elemental damage bonus here. So if you look down, you could come to main attack percentage, and you could, that's it, you see, you have an attack percentage here. But you could also get like elemental damage bonus. So for Wuthering Waves, it's like you could either go for the flower, you could go attack or HP. For the feather, you could go attack or HP. For the suns now, you could either go with attack, HP, or elemental damage bonus. So for this sake here, let's call this one the suns, and you could just use either an attack or you could use an elemental damage bonus. I'm just trying to drill this in your head, right? I'm trying not to overcomplicate it, right? So we'll call this one the suns. So the next one here, is the goblet in Genshin Impact, and you see I have a elemental damage bonus here. So the 3 pieces here, the 3 cost pieces, are either like attack percentage like Sans or elemental damage bonus like goblets. Now for the last slot here, this is like your circlet in Genshin Impact. You could have crit rate, you could have let me go to cost 4 up here. You could have crit rate, you could have attack percentage, etc. You could have I think I have some crit damage somewhere here. Let me check. Crit. So you see you have crit damage and stuff here. So you could call this one like the circlet. Now the whole thing with Wuthering Waves is having this cost over here. The end game of Wuthering Waves, you're going to have a build with 4-3-3-1-1. There is the 4-4-1-1-1, and I'll talk about that after, but this might be like the end game. The only problem right now, it's very difficult to get a on-set elemental damage. So most people, what they do for the circlet in Wuwa, they use a crit rate or crit damage. For the goblet, they're gonna use elemental damage bonus. So you see a fusion damage here. And then for like the Sans in Wuwa, they tend to go for another elemental damage bonus. So you see I have a fusion here as well, but you could also use an attack percentage too, like this one here. And then for the feather, most people just go for attack percentage, and for the flower in Genshin Impact, it's HP as the main stat. Most people just go for damage for the main DPS and they use attack percentage. And that is the whole cost of Wuthering Waves ecosystem. Now with Wuthering Waves, there is one thing you need to keep notice of. So you see like this bird here, right? You see that he is, or she, whatever the gender is, it's a elemental damage bonus. Now if I was to come to this slot here, you cannot use this bird again. You need to get a different echo. I'm going to say beast because you know they look like beasts. You need to get a different echo. It cannot be like the same crane over here. You need to use something else. That's why I use the wolf. Now if I was to use the crane here, you see that I lose out on the full bonus of the echo set, but when I go back to a different echo, you see I get the full set. So that's one thing with echo. Grinding the artifacts of Wuthering Waves is easy, but getting them on set and getting the correct ones may take a little bit of time for the 4-3-3-1-1 build. So that's the 4-3-3-1-1 build of Wuthering Waves, and let me go on to the 4-4-1-1-1. Now the 4-4-1-1-1 is, right now there's a debate which one is better, 4-3-3-1-1 or 4-4-1-1-1. Right now, it's easier to build 4-4-1-1-1, so a lot of people are using that right now. So with the 4-4-1-1-1, as you see, I'm only using 11 out of 12 because this one is 4 plus 3. I already talk about that again. This one is 4 plus 4, which is 8, and then plus 3 is 11. You cannot get 12 out of 12 for this one. Now, if I had to relate this to Genshin Impact, it's going to be like having 2 circlets and then 3 feathers or 3 HP flowers. Most people are going to have their 1-1-1s on their main DPS to be attack percentage. So you could count this as 1 flower here with attack percentage, or you could call it a feather. You could call this another flower or feather here with attack or HP, and then you have a flower or a feather here as attack or HP. Then you have the 2-4 course here, and most people tend to only put crit rate or crit damage here because all the elemental damage bonus of this game is a 3 cost. Now you could probably come and change it up here and put elemental damage bonus here, but most people don't do it. You could do it if you want, but this is typically the way that they do it. They usually want to have 2 circlets with like crit rate on one, then crit damage in the other, and then have attack percentage here. And that's basically the ecosystem of Wuthering Waves, trying to relate it to Genshin Impact. Okay, so I came up with a little document here. I might leave it in the description down below if you all want to relate Genshin Impact slots, like, you know, the each slots in Genshin Impact, the flower, feather, sans, goblet, circlet, to Wuthering Waves here, so you can understand it a little bit better. Now, just know that this is reversed in Wuthering Waves as you see here. The slot 1 in Wuthering Waves is like the circlet, the slot 2 is like the goblet, the slot 3 is like the sans, the slot 4 is like the feather, and the slot 5 is like the flower. Now for the first slot in Genshin Impact, it's the flower, it's always HP percentage, and that's our one cost in Wuthering Waves. So it's either HP percentage or attack. That's why I put it's either a flower or a feather. Right, the sands in Genshin Impact, that's the slot 3. It's either attack percentage, energy recharge, elemental mastery, etc. That's the slot 3. But in Wuthering Waves, the slot 3 is like either a sands or a goblet. So you could have an elemental damage bonus, attack percentage, energy recharge, etc. Now the slot 4 in Genshin Impact, that's the goblet. That's where you get the elemental damage bonus like hydro damage, electro damage, pyro damage, etc. The slot 4 of Wuthering Waves, it's either a sans or a goblet. So you put either elemental damage bonus, a 3-cost one by the way, or attack percentage or energy recharge. Now the circlet, that's slot 5 in Genshin Impact. That's where for your main DPS you use the crit rate, crit damage. And the slot 5 of Wuthering Waves, it's no different. It's a 4-cost of either crit rate, crit damage. You could get other things like attack percentage, but generally most people use this for crit rate and crit damage. And that's the 4-3-3-1-1. So for the 4-4-1-1-1 in Wuthering Waves, that's the easier build to do right now. That's the 11 out of 12 cost. I related it here. Slot 1 is either a flower or feather. Slot 2 is a flower or feather. Slot 3 is a flower or feather. Slot 4, most people do crit rate, crit damage like a circlet. Slot 5 is a crit rate or crit damage circlet. And that's the best way that I could explain or relate Wuthering Waves artifact system to Genshin Impact. So hopefully you understood this, and hope you enjoyed this video, and hope you're not confused anymore. So hit the like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.